Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Parliamentary Procedure in Action. You know, parliamentary procedure can help you and help you do your job if you're trying to run a business meeting. And today I'm going to give you what you need to know to be able to efficiently conduct business at a business meeting. And that particular part of parliamentary procedure is called the 10th, or rather the 8 steps of making a motion. Now, to go through this process is really a very simple procedure, and it's designed basically to accomplish the business at hand, and specifically to do one thing at a time. And the first step of making a motion is to stand and address the chair. If you have something to say, if you have business before the group, you stand and address the chair. You get up and say, "Mr. Chairman." And then the chair can go ahead and call on you, and that's the second step, which is wait to be recognized. Don't get up and say, "Mr. Chairman, I want to talk." You don't get to talk until the chairman allows you to talk. And he will say, or she will say, "The chair recognizes so-and-so," and then you're able to talk. So those are the first 2 steps. Stand and be recognized. Stand and address the chair, and wait to be recognized. Now, why is this? Well, part of the reason is that you could have 7 or 8 people all get up at once and address the chair and all yell out, "Mr. Chairman." Well, can everybody talk at the same time? Well, no, they can't. So the chair has to make a decision, and that's why you must wait to be recognized, and the chairman will pick that person that is the most logical person to conduct business at that particular time. So stand and address the chair, and wait to be recognized. Now, the third step of making a motion, interestingly enough, is making the motion. Now, a motion is merely a technique to bring business before the floor and get it acted upon, either yes or no. For example, the person that is recognized may get up and say, "Mr. Chairman," and the chair recognizes that person, "Mr. Chairman, I move we open the door." Now, that's all he can say at that point. He can't say why he wants the door open, because we haven't given him permission to do that yet at this point. We've merely given him permission to bring a subject before the organization, and we now need to decide whether or not it's worth talking about. And one of the ways we decide whether it's worth talking about is the 4th step of making the motion, and that is somebody seconds the motion. Now, this means that there's more than one person in the room that wants to talk about this, the issue of whether or not we should open the door. Now, doesn't mean that the person seconding the motion has to be in favor of opening the door. He can be against opening the door. All the second is doing is saying, "I believe that this motion is worth discussing before the group, and therefore I second the motion." Now, to do that, he just needs to say, "I second the motion." He or she doesn't need to be recognized. So there we are, the first 4 steps of making a motion and getting it on the floor. Stand and address the chair, wait to be recognized, make a motion, and then somebody seconds the motion. Now, when you make a motion, there is a certain way that you do it. There are certain words that you use, and specifically you say, "I move that." You don't say, "I make a motion." You don't say, "I would like to make a motion." You don't say, "Hey, I got something to talk about here." You say, "I move that we open the door." And if there is a second, then it is worth the group's discussion. Now, if there is no second, what happens is it dies for a lack of second. And what this really means is there's only one person in the room that wants to open the door, so why are we going to talk about it? So if you have a second, at least there's more than one person at least willing to discuss it. So at that point, the motion really needs to be brought before the assembly. And this is done by the chair, and that's the 5th step of making the motion, where the chair states the motion. It has been moved and seconded that we open the door. And then that moves into the 6th step of making a motion, which is the discussion. But at the point that the chair has said, "It has been moved and seconded that we open the door," it becomes the property of the assembly. The motion is no longer the property of the maker of the motion, it's the property of the assembly. The maker of the motion can't say, "Oh, I really didn't want to do that, I withdraw my motion." At that point, too bad, too sad, it's the property of the group. And that is why we have step 5, the chair stating the motion. Once we have that, then we have a discussion. Now, discussion needs to be done in a fairly civil way, and so there are some rules about this. First of all, the maker of the motion has the right to speak first on the motion. At that point, the maker of the motion can get up and say why he wants the door open. It's warm in here, we need to let some cooler air in. But he cannot say that at the beginning. He can't say, Mr. Chairman, I move we open the door because it's warm in here and we need to let some air in. So he can't really do that at all until the motion is the property of the assembly. So now that it is, then we have the discussion, and again, maker of the motion has first crack at it. Everybody has the right for two to speak about the issue twice on a given debate. But no one can speak a second time until everyone that wishes to has spoken a first time. And that's to keep one or two people from dominating the whole conversation, and somebody that really wants to talk doesn't get a chance. So no one can talk a second time until everybody that wishes to has spoken a first time. Ideally, you'd go pro and con on a debate, but you don't always know who's in favor and who's against, so that's more of an ideal situation. But at some point, we get through with discussion, and if we don't get through and there's two or three people tying it up, we can vote, we can do what we call moving the previous question, which is nothing more than a motion to close debate. And if 2/3 of the people agree to close debate, then that's it. We close debate at that point. Otherwise, the chair will say, all right, we'll now move to step number 7 and take a vote. The chair won't say that. The chair will say, we'll now take a vote. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. And they'll do a count. And then that brings us to the 8th step, which is simply that the chair announces the result. The vote is 7 in favor, 6 against, and the motion passes. Will the Sergeant at Arms please open the door? So it's really that simple. 8 basic steps of making a motion, and if you follow these steps, you will definitely be indispensable as the chairman at your meeting. Mr. Toski.